Whoops, wrong one.
君は目覚めてゆく天使の微笑みで
To start Hunter x Hunter off, Gon leaves his hometown Whale Island to become a hunter and to search for his father Jing, who left him when he was just a baby to be a hunter, hence the name Hunter Hunter. On the boat ride to the hunter exam site, Gon meets Kurapika and Leorio and creates a bond over saving someone. Apparently the boat ride was a test for the hunter exam, and so the captain passes them and drops them off at the nearest port to the hunter exam. They then make their way to the hunter exam site after passing 3 tests on the way, and on their arrival, they get a good look at the other applicants and each gets assigned an identification number. Soon after, the examiner's thoughts arrives and starts the first phase of the hunter exam. The objective for the first phase is to follow the examiner to the destination without any given details on the distance. While going forward, Gon meets Killua and pretty much becomes friends on the spot. As the applicants are moving through the fog, they get lost, including Gon and Killua. Meanwhile, Kurapika and Leorio are grouped up and encounters Hisoka. Kurapika runs for it, but Leorio decides to take on Hisoka. With Hisoka having a higher caliber and strength, Leorio then takes a fat L. That's when Gon arrives and takes on Hisoka and also takes an L. Hisoka then spares both of them because he sees potential in the two of them. Hisoka then leaves, taking Leorio with him, and heads to the finish line of the first phase. Shortly after, Kurapika returns and heads to the finish with Gon, reuniting with Leorio and Killua. Moving forward to the second phase, the objective is to hunt a great stamp and cook a dish with it, with the ultimate goal being to satisfy the 2 gourmet hunter examiners, Menchi and Buhara. Menchi was dissatisfied with the applicants' dishes and fails everyone. That's when the Hunter Association's chairman Netero arrives and tells Menchi the exam that she has set up is unacceptable. Menchi then sets up another challenge, giving the applicants another chance. The goal for this challenge is to collect an egg from a spider eagle's nest. Some applicants dropped out, some applicants died, and the rest succeeded, including Gon, Killua, Kurapika, and Leorio. Moving forward, all the applicants that passed the second phase of the hunter exam is now being transported to the site of the third by airship. On the ride, most of the applicants rested, and Killua reveals to Gon that he comes from a family of assassins. Moving forward, the applicants arrive at the site of the third phase, which is the top of Trick Tower. The objective is to make it to the bottom of this tower within 72 hours. With that being said, Gon, Kurapika, Leorio, and Killua enter the tower through stone tiles. They then see that they need a 5th person to proceed, and so they wait. After waiting 2 hours, Fat Bitch drops by, and so they proceed through the tower with him. As they are going through the tower, they encounter an obstacle where they have to defeat 3 out of the 5 prisoners, with the rule being they have to challenge each prisoner one-on-one, and each applicant can only participate once. They pass through this obstacle after a series of fights and challenges, but they receive a 50-hour penalty due to an outcome of Leorio's match. After serving the penalty, they arrive at the bottom of Trick Tower with roughly 1 minute to spare, and so they pass the third phase. The passing applicants now move on to the fourth phase, which takes place on Zevel Island. On the ship ride there, each applicant is assigned a target through drawing cards. As a result, Gon is assigned Hisoka for his target. On that note, let me just take a moment to explain the rules of the fourth phase. An applicant is required to gather 6 points to pass this phase. Points are obtained through stealing identification tags. Target identification tags are worth 3 points, an applicant's assigned tag is worth 3 points, and all other tags are worth 1. Moving forward, the applicants disperse into the island, one by one, 2 minutes apart. When Gon enters the island, he thinks of ways to obtain Hisoka's tag, and comes to the decision that he'll use his fishing rod. He then practices his timing and accuracy, and discovers the best time to strike, which is when Hisoka is occupied with another target. Gon then searches for Hisoka, and after some time, he finds him. He then conceals his presence, and follows Hisoka around, waiting for that chansu. As Hisoka is aiming for one of the applicants, Gon swoops in with his fishing rod and dips after taking Hisoka's tag. Shortly after, Gon collapses due to getting hit by a small dart which paralyzes him. The applicant that immobilized him then comes in and takes his tags, but soon after, Hisoka kills him and returns both his and Gon's tag, telling Gon that he's impressed with his ability to conceal his presence. Hisoka then heads off, but is stopped by Gon. Gon then tells him to take his tag back, but Hisoka refuses. Hisoka then tells Gon that he wants to keep him alive, so one day he can kill him when he's a more formidable opponent. Hisoka then pops Gon in the mouth, telling him that he'll take his tag back once Gon is able to land a punch on him like that. Shortly after, Hisoka leaves, leaving Gon in distraught. Moving forward, Gon reunites with Leorio and Kurapika. They decide to go after Leorio's target, Ponzu, who's a chemical specialist. Since Gon has keen senses, he smells a strong scent coming from a cave, and concludes that it's Ponzu. Leorio is then like, "Watch out, bruh, I got this," and heads into the cave alone. Since Leorio hasn't returned in 30 minutes, Gon and Kurapika enter the cave. There they find Ponzu and Leorio, who's immobilized due to snake bites. Shortly after their arrival, they are informed that they're trapped in this cave because of a snake trap set up by this applicant right here, who's dead. Gon then searches the dead snake owner, triggering the snakes to attack him. He finds antidotes for the snake venom and passes it to Kurapika. Kurapika then gives the antidote to both Gon and Leorio. Since the snakes are trapping them in this cave, Gon plots a plan to use Ponzu's sleeping gas to escape. Gon holds his breath while Ponzu activates her gas to put the snakes to sleep. After waiting 5 minutes so the gas can reach the end of the cave, Gon carries Leorio, Kurapika, and Ponzu out of the cave. After that, Gon gives Ponzu the snake owner's tag and takes her tag for Leorio. Moving forward, the fourth phase has come to an end, and the applicants that acquired the 6 required points are to return to the rendezvous point. The applicants that passed the 4th phase is Hisoka, Pokel, Killua, Gitaraka, Bodoro, Hanzo, Leorio, Kurapika, and Gon. The 9 applicants now move on to the final phase, which is the tournament. 1 win is all that's required to pass, meaning that there will be 1 applicant that fails. Also note, losses will bring applicants up the brackets, and whoever reaches the top will fail the exam. The rules of the tournament is that killing is restricted, and forcing an opponent to admit defeat is the only way to win a match. If an applicant does kill an opponent, he will be disqualified, and the remaining applicants will pass, therefore ending the exam. For the first match, we got Gon and Hanzo. Gon takes a massive ass beating, but won't give up. After several attempts on trying to get Gon to give up, Hanzo surrenders, explaining that he'll take his chances with the next match. Afterwards, Hanzo uppercuts Gon after a brief argument, knocking Gon out. Gon then wakes up and is rewarded his hunter license by Stotts. Stotts then tells Gon that Killua was the one who failed, explaining that it all started when Killua went up against his older brother Illumi, who was disguised as Gitaraka. In the match, Illumi tells Killua to quit on being a hunter and to pursue being an assassin. Killua then responds that he doesn't care about being a hunter and he just wants to be friends with Gon. That's when Illumi is like, that's it. I'm killing that bitch so you can get back on track. And that's when Killua submits to fear and surrenders the match. And so, for the next match, we got Leorio and Bodoro. As the match starts, Killua appears behind Bodoro and kills that bitch because of Illumi's mind control. As a result, Killua gets disqualified and shortly after he heads back home to the Zoldyak family. Upon hearing this, Gon confronts Illumi and asks where Killua went. Illumi says it's a bad idea to go, but tells him anyways. After learning the location, Gon, Leorio, and Kurapika head out to Kukuru Mountain to rescue Killua. They arrive at the testing gate and stop by a man named Zebro. Zebro then tells them that the only way to get through the gate is by pushing it, also telling them the gate weighs 2 tons. He then offers training on which they accept, and so they were able to open the gate after a couple of days of intense training. They then continue their search for Killua and encounters Connery, a butler for the Zoldyak family. She restricts them from moving any further, and after a good bit, Gon convinces her to allow them to pass through. Meanwhile, Killua is getting tortured by his brother Miliki, as punishment for stabbing him and his mother before he left. Oh yes! Oh yes! Oh! Killua's grandfather Zeno then walks in and allows Killua to leave. And let's just take a moment to observe how much of a beast Killua is. God damn! Moving forward, Connery is escorting Gon, Leorio, and Kurapika towards the Zoldyak mansion. When they arrive, they play a little game with a butler named Goto. If you correctly guess the hand this coin is in, you'll be allowed to see Killua. However, if you guess incorrectly, fuck out of my house! Which hand? That one! God damn it! Shortly after, Killua enters the room and so he heads out with Gon, Kurapika, and Leorio. After that, Leorio departs to study to become a doctor, and Kurapika departs to look for a job as a hunter. But before doing so, they agree to meet up on September 1st at York New City. You can't try! With Gon and Killua remaining in the group, Killua introduces the idea that they should participate in the Heaven's Arena tournament, so that way they could train as well as earn money. They both sign up to the Heaven's Arena tournament, and dominates to the 50th floor. Before I continue, let me just take a moment to explain the Heaven's Arena. There are a total of 251 floors to the Heaven's Arena, and victories move competitors up floors. Every 50 floors, competitors are rewarded with Jenny. After making it to the 100th floor, competitors are designated a private room. So yeah, with that out of the way, let's continue. On the elevator ride up to the 50th floor, Gon and Killua meet Zushi, and soon after they meet his master Wing. Moving forward, Killua goes up against Zushi in a match. He knocks Zushi down multiple times, but Zushi manages to recover each time. Zushi then unleashes a strange aura, which frightens Killua because it's similar to the aura that his brother Illumi releases. Shortly after, Zushi's master Wing stops him. With Zushi getting back up constantly, this annoyed Killua, and so he hits a home run with Zushi, winning the match with a ring out. After the match, Killua overhears Wing lecturing Zushi about something along the lines of Ren, and talks to Gon about it. Gon and Killua then get curious over the idea of Ren, and goes to Zushi to ask about it. Shortly after, Wing appears and brings up something about Nen. With Killua very curious, he asks Wing to teach him about the concept of Nen. Wing agrees, bringing both Killua and Gon to his room to demonstrate and explain the 4 principles of Nen, which is Ten, Zetsu, Ren, and Hatsu. Moving forward, Gon and Killua make it to the 200th floor. As they are heading to the receptionist, they are stopped by Hisoka. Hisoka then releases a powerful force in Nen, restricting them from going any further, telling them that they're not ready for the 200th floor. Shortly after, Wing appears and offers to teach them lessons to learn Nen. Using a frowned upon procedure, Wing blasts both of them with his Nen, opening the aura nodes throughout Gon and Killua's body. With their Nen rapidly flowing, Gon and Killua quickly learn how to control their Nen, being able to use Ten. Gon and Killua then return back to Hisoka. Hisoka tries to stop them once again, but was unable to because they used Ten to counter Hisoka's Nen. Gon then tells Hisoka that he intends to fight him, but Hisoka refuses to fight him unless he wins a single match on the 200th floor. Shortly after, Hisoka leaves. Moving forward, Gon goes up against Geto, who uses Nen to manipulate tops as weapons. With that being said, Gon gets pop, pop, pop taking a brutal final blow. After a month of recovery and some consistent Nen training, Gon rematches Gedo, except this time, he brings his fishing rod. With Gon's increased mastery in Nen, he manages to deflect Gedo's attacks. While Gedo is spinning as a defense, Gon says, "Whoopsie daisy," flipping the tile under Gedo with his fishing rod. He then follows up with a punch, breaking Gedo's pogo stick leg. With Gedo unable to fight, Gon wins the match. Moving on to the next match, we got Killua and Rayvelt. Killua manages to win because of his immunity to electricity, due to the torture he received back home, and so he uses Rayvelt's own weapon against him. Rayvelt is then given another chance to redeem himself, and goes up against Gon, and as a result, he takes a fat L once again. Bravo! Bravo! As Gon is walking out of the arena, he encounters Hisoka. Hisoka then tells Gon to pick a time and place to fight, and leaves. Moving forward, Wing teaches Gon, Killua, and Zushi the 6 types of Nen: enchantment, emission, transmutation, conjuration, manipulation, and specialization. After the explanations, they use water divination to classify the type of Nen each of them possesses. Gon's Nen makes the water overflow, which makes him an enhancer. Killua's Nen turns the water sweet, which makes him a transmuter. And Zushi's Nen makes the leaf move on the water, which makes him a manipulator. After that, Wing dismisses Gon and Killua as graduates, telling them that they have passed the secret hunter exam, which is basically just to learn Nen. The others that also passed the secret hunter exam is Hanzo, Kurapika, Poco, Leorio, Hisoka, and Illumi. Moving forward a couple of weeks, Gon challenges Hisoka. At the beginning of the match, Gon takes some L's, but that's when Gon picks up a towel from the stage and shatters it, being able to maneuver himself around Hisoka, and gives him a chance to deliver a nice and spicy punch to the face. Gon then says, "Take your tag back," which Hisoka takes back with pleasure, doing a nice little 1, 2, 3, 4 poof magic trick. Hisoka then uses his Nen ability, also known as bungee gum, to pull Gon towards him, hitting a heavy blow. Hisoka then follows up with pulling a piece of rubble with his bungee gum and hits Gon smack in the face with it. He's then rewarded 2 points for a clean hit and wins the match with the score being 11-4. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, the referee rewards points based on performance, and the score limit is 10. I don't know how I forgot about this detail, but let's move on. Hisoka then leaves the arena, telling Gon the next time they face each other, Gon will be a more experienced fighter and that their lives will be at stake. After that, Gon and Killua head out to Whale Island, after saying their goodbyes to Wing and Zushi. Moving forward, Gon and Killua arrive at Gon's house. After chilling for a bit, Gon's aunt/motherly figure, Mito, gives Gon a small box, telling him that Jin gave it to her before he left, also telling her to give it to Gon when he becomes a hunter. Gon and Killua have trouble opening the box, and that's when Gon recalls his father telling Mito to give the box to him when he becomes a hunter. After putting 2 and 2 together, they try using Nen and it opens. The box contained a memory card, a ring, and a cassette tape with a recording of Jing's voice on it.
Gon, are you really sure you want to see me? Because to put it bluntly, I don't want to see your bitch ass.
After listening to the tape, an aura appears around the player and starts overwriting the message. They attempt to stop it but end up failing. Killua then explains to Gon that his father did that to make it harder to find him. They then look into the items from the box and focuses on the memory card. Since the memory card needed a console, Killua goes out and buys a game system. They then insert the memory card into the system and find a save for a game called Greed Island. After some research, they find that Greed Island is a very rare game worth nearly 6 billion Jenny. Killua then calls his brother Miliki for information where they can get access to Greed Island. Miliki then tells Killua there's a website exclusive to hunters where he might find a lead, also telling him there will be an auction held in York New City in September, where someone might be selling copies of Greed Island. After acquiring this information, Gon and Killua head out to York New City to gather more information on Greed Island, and to also reunite with Leorio and Kurapika. You can smile! Moving forward, Kurapika gets accepted into the Hunter Agency and chooses the job to collect human trophies for 2 reasons. The first reason being to hunt the Phantom Troop to avenge his clan, and the second reason being to recover the Scarlet Eyes the Phantom Troop have stolen, after slaughtering his clan. After going through a series of tests, Kurapika is hired as a bodyguard for the No Strayed family. Moving forward, Gon and Killua arrive in York New City, and goes to an internet cafe to do the research on Greed Island using the Hunter's website. After some time, they find out that 7 copies of Greed Island will be auctioned off in the York New auction, with the lowest bid starting at around 9 billion Jenny. With that being said, Gon and Killua look for ways to earn money, and along the way they meet up with Leorio. Moving forward, Kurapika and the other bodyguards are assigned their first mission to escort the boss's daughter Neon to a hotel, which they successfully do. After that, the bodyguards are ordered to obtain 3 items at the auction. Moving forward to the auction, the Phantom Troop begins their raid, spraying every motherfucker in that bitch, and taking the merchandise scheduled for the auction. As they are escaping in a hot air balloon, they are shut down by the Mafia and confronted. That's when the Phantom Troop's Uvagan has some fun, and wipes each and every one of them out with ease. Shortly after, group members from the Shadow Beast just arrived, and also gets the floor wiped with them. As all of this is happening, Kurapika and the other bodyguards are watching from a distance. Kurapika then steps out and uses his nen ability, Chain Jail, to capture Uvagin and retreats back to headquarters. When they return to their headquarters, they restrain Uvagin and questions him about the items stolen from the auction. Uvagin then gives them a truthful response, and shortly after, Kurapika gets a text from Hisoka to meet up. Kurapika decides to go, leaving Uvagin with the bodyguards. As a false member of the Phantom Troop, Hisoka says he's willing to tell Kurapika the nen abilities of 7 members in the troop if he's willing to team up with him, adding that it's not for the reason to work together, but to exchange information with one another to benefit each other's ambitions. Kurapika's being to hunt the Phantom Troop, and Hisoka's being to fight the Phantom Troop's leader, Kurolo, in a 1-on-1 deathmatch. Soon after, Kurapika gets a call from his co-worker Melody, telling him that Uvagin has escaped. After hearing this, Kurapika walks off not answering Hisoka's proposal, but tells him to meet here again at the same time tomorrow. With Uvagin wanting revenge on Kurapika, he searches every possible place where Kurapika can be, eventually finding him in a room where he was waiting. They then take the fight outside, and that's when Kurapika lands his chain jail once again. Kurapika then uses his judgment chain on Uvagin. If Uvagin breaks the rule that Kurapika sets, the blade at the end of the chain will give Uvagin's heart a nice little piercing. With that being said, Kurapika sets the rule to answer his question honestly, asking where the other Phantom Troop members are located. To protect his comrades, he says, cue the music! Alright, that's enough. Moving forward, Gon Killua and Leorio find flyers for the Phantom Troop and tries to contact Kurapika, but Kurapika doesn't pick up. They then decide to pursue the Phantom Troop for the prize money so they can afford that Greed Island. After doing some research, Leorio discovers the location of 2 Phantom Troop members, Machi and Nobunaga. They then plot a plan to capture them, and shortly after follows through with it. Gon Killua uses Zetsu to conceal their presence to tail Machi and Nobunaga. Both of them are aware that they're getting followed, and so they stop in a secluded area. Shortly after, Gon and Killua get compromised, and so they try to dip, but are both stopped by 2 other Phantom Troop members, Sphinx and Pakunoda. They are both then asked a series of questions. The first one being why they were following them, and the second being if they knew anything about the chain user, or in other words, Kurapika. To the first question, they both answered that they were going after the bounty, and for the second question, they both answered truthfully that they don't know anything about the chain user, because the last time they saw Kurapika, he didn't possess the chain abilities. They are both then detained and are asked once again if they knew anything about the chain user, using Pakunoda's nen ability to scan people for information. After getting scanned, Gon and Killua come out negative. They are then brought to the Phantom Troop's hideout. After some time, the troop finds no use keeping them here because they don't have any information on the chain user, and so they all agree to release them, except
そいつは返さねえ。ボードだ。雲に入れよ。
Nobunaga then locks Gon and Killua in a room with him and says, "We're waiting for boss." That's when Gon and Killua creates a plan to create their own exits and successfully escapes the hideout. This is when Killua informs Gon that the chain user is Kurapika. He figured this out after putting details together from the discussions that the Phantom Troop had. He then says that they must seek Kurapika to learn more about Nen to improve their overall strength, so they'll actually have a chance against future opponents. Moving forward, Neon goes shopping and manages to escape her bodyguards to sneak into the auction. She encounters the Phantom Troop's leader, Kurolo, and gets through security with his help. Kurolo then manages to get Neon to use her fortune-telling Nen ability. As she uses her ability, Kurolo uses his Nen ability, Skill Hunter. This Nen ability allows Kurolo to steal an individual's Hatsu, or Nen ability, after learning and being exposed to it. Upon completion, the individual Kurolo stole the Nen ability from won't be able to use it anymore. With that being said, Kurolo knocks her out and dips afterwards. Moving forward, Kurolo tells the members of the troop to go wild, on their way to the auction. Meanwhile, the 10 Dons hire Silva and Zeno Zoldiak to take care of the Phantom Troop at the auction. They end up fighting Kurolo and starts a pretty juicy fight. After fighting for a bit, Illumi calls Silva, telling him that he has killed the 10 Dons because he was hired by Kurolo to do so. Shortly after, Silva and Zeno leave because there's no reason to continue fighting if they ain't getting paid. Moving forward, the Scarlet Eyes are up for auction and Kurapika buys them after being ordered to by his boss. Prior to that, the Phantom Troop fakes their deaths using Quarter P's Nen ability to create fake corpses. Upon finding out the troop is quote-unquote dead, this put Kurapika in a bit of a depression because he kinda lost his purpose. Moving forward, Kurolo orders the troop to leave York New City, but Nobunaga refuses to because he wants to stay to avenge his buddy boy Uvagin. That's when Kurolo uses the fortune-telling Nen ability he stole from Neon on most of the members in the troop, including Hisoka. Through doing this, they infer Shizuku, Shellnark, and Pakunoda will die by next week. They then read Hisoka's fortune and gets furious believing Hisoka is a traitor because his fortune says he'll meet up and team up with the chain user, also exposing the abilities of some of the troop members. His fortune even mentions the time he'll face Kurolo. After reading Hisoka's fortune, he gets questioned. He confirms the meetup with the chain user is true, but for the rest, he says he cannot tell them, adding that if they have a problem with that, he'll have no other choice but to fight. The troop then reviews his fortune once again and sees the phrase Sword of Law. They interpret that being a sword pointed at Hisoka's heart, preventing him from leaking any information. But little did they know, that phrase is just an illusion Hisoka created with his Nen to keep the troop inside of York New City, so he'll have a chance to fight Kurolo. They then move on to the second verse of Hisoka's fortune and infers that more than half of the troop will die if they leave York New City. With that being said, Kurolo decides to stay. Moving forward, Kurapika reunites with Gon, Killua, and Leorio Leorio. After explaining the condition for his chain jail and judgment chain, Kurapika gets a text from Hisoka telling him the dead bodies were fake, which gave Kurapika mixed emotions. Gon and Killua then ask Kurapika if they can help take down the Phantom Troop, and Kurapika accepts their help. After doing some planning, they create a plan to capture Pakunoda because of her ability to extract information. They then arrive at the troop's hideout to execute their plan, but find many duplicates of the base which Quarter P created with the intention to throw them off. Kurapika then calls Melody over for her assistance because of her ability to hear at long ranges. With the troop's knowledge on the chain user, knowing that Kurapika works for the Nostrade family and that he's after the Scarlet Eyes, also piecing together that Neon likes human trophies, using Quarter P's Nen ability, they track the duplicate of the Scarlet Eyes which Kurapika bought at the auction and heads to the hotel room it's located in. Melody then tracks the troop's movement with her hearing abilities and updates Kurapika via cell phone. Since the troop were heading towards the hotel, Kurapika calls his co-worker Squall to evacuate, and so he does take his Scarlet Eyes with him, which pretty much served as a beacon for the troop. Seeing the troop rushing towards the hotel, Kurapika and Gon pursues them. Upon finding out they were being followed, Corolla, Machi, and Shizuku turn around while the other three members go ahead to pursue Squall. The split second they turn around, they get a glimpse of Gon and Kurapika, but not long enough to see their faces. That's when Killua arrives and switch places with Kurapika. Shortly after, Gon and Killua come out of their hiding spots and gets captured by the troop because they suspect they know something about the chain user. Gon and Killua are then brought to a hotel awaiting Pakunoda's arrival. Meanwhile, Squall gets caught by the other troop members and gets cue the music. Alright, that's enough. Pakunoda then directly transfers the information she extracted from Squall about Kurapika to Nobunaga and Quarter P using her Nen ability Memory Bomb. Moving forward, Pakunoda as well as Quarter P and Nobunaga arrive at the hotel. As Gon and Killua are about to get extracted for information, the light goes out in coordination with Kurapika's plan. Kurapika then swoops in and captures Corolla, leaving a note behind telling the troop. Using Corolla's cell phone, Kurapika then gives the troop members 3 demands, telling them that if they disobey any one of them, he will kill their leader. He then forbids Pakunoda from communicating with the other troop members, and tells her to meet up at an airport coming alone. After that, Kurapika then tells her to give the phone to Nobunaga, telling Nobunaga that all of the members have to return back to the hideout, and if even one member is missing, he'll kill Corolla. Moving forward, Pakunoda meets up with Kurapika. Kurapika then sets up judgment chains on both Corolla and Pakunoda, setting up 2 conditions for each of them. Corolla's condition being he can't use Nen and he can't contact any of the troop members, and Pakunoda's being she must bring Gon and Killua unharmed before midnight and she cannot speak a single word about Kurapika. With that being said, Pakunoda leaves and returns with Gon and Killua. As they are walking towards the airship, Hisoka appears. Hisoka then asks to get on board, threatening Gon and Killua's life because he intends on fighting Corolla. Once the hostage exchange took place, Gon, Killua, and Kurapika leave immediately after, leaving Hisoka and Corolla to settle their battle. Since Hisoka isn't a troop member, Corolla is able to talk to him. Corolla then tells Hisoka he's unable to use his Nen because of the judgment chain placed on his heart, which disappoints Hisoka. Hisoka then leaves afterwards, unwilling to fight Corolla because of the handicap he was at. Meanwhile, Pakunoda returns back to the troop's hideout and uses her memory bomb on 6 members, giving them her memories and feelings. Shortly after, Kurapika's judgment chain activates, dropping her to the ground in a snap of a finger. Cue the music! Alright, that's enough! You can smile! Moving forward, the auction for Greed Island has begun. After the auction, Gon and Killua goes to the Greed Island auction winner Badara to ask if they can play it. Since Badara is looking for hunters to clear the game, he puts both of them through a brief test to see if they're worthy to enter Greed Island. They end up failing to reach his expectations, and so Killua comes up with the idea to create their own Nen abilities. So after some time, Killua comes up with the ability to discharge electricity, and after a long ass time of thinking, Gon comes up with the ability to create explosive punches, also known as his rock paper scissors technique, which is in its first phase of development. Moving forward, Kurapika and Melody leave Yorkuni City to continue their job with the Nostrade family, and Leorio leaves to become a self-proclaimed doctor. Meanwhile, Badara wins all 7 copies of Greed Island and holds a screening allowing access for other hunters to play. At the screening, the hunters are tested to see if they are worthy to enter. After revealing their new Nen abilities, both Gon and Killua are allowed access. The participants then all head over to a mansion, where the consoles for Greed Island are set up. The first person to enter the game is Gon, using the memory card and taking the ring that Jin gave him. Before every player enters the actual game, they are welcomed by Etta and explain the rules. In order to beat Greed Island, a player is to gather all 100 restricted cards. Also, all players who die here die in real life. Nani? Upon exiting the room, the ring that Jin gave to Gon activates, playing a message.
これは俺が仲間と作ったゲームだ。楽しんでいってくれ。だが、俺の元へたどり着く手がかりがあると思ったらあいにくだったな。
Gon and Killua then group up and explore Greed Island. While they're exploring, they're being followed by this girl. This girl is later identified as Biscuit, or Bisky for short. She then explains that she's a pro hunter and that she'll use her 40 years of knowledge on Nen to instruct them.
年号覚えて40年ババアじゃん
Bisky then reveals that she was Wing's Nen teacher, and as she is explaining, she senses a person creeping up on them. Bisky then confronts the guy and wipes him out with ease. After seeing her strength, Gon and Killua train under her after asking. Using the goon that she just knocked down, Bisky uses him as a training dummy for Gon and Killua. Through this training, they both get an increase in agility, and afterwards, they let this scrub go because they don't need that bitch no more. Moving forward, Gon and Killua resume more training, and while doing so, they realize the next hunter exam is coming up. So Killua acquires and uses a passage ticket card to return back to the real world to obtain his hunter's license. After earning his license, Killua returns to Greed Island, and this is when Bisky declares that they beat the game. On their journey, they collect a good handful of restricted cards, and then encounters this NPC. This NPC then tells them to go to a pirate base with the objective to get the pirates to leave the city, telling them that if they succeed, they will be rewarded with the Patch of Shore restricted card. After gathering up with 12 other Greed Island players, they head to the pirates base. This is where they meet up with one of the game masters, Razor. Razor sets up the competition under the theme of sports, and if they win, he and the pirates will leave. As a result, the Greed Island players take fat L's, but through these L's, Killua gathered information. Afterwards, the team disbands, leaving Gon, Killua, Bisky, and Morenu remaining. Moving forward, Gon searches for new teammates and opens his book. He then sees a player he recently encountered named Corollo. This sparked his interest, and so they use an accompany card to transfer themselves to the location of the player under the name of Corollo. They then find out the player is Hisoka and ask him why he's here. He then briefly explains that he's here looking for Corollo. Since they are seeking for someone strong, Bisky recruits Hisoka to the team, knowing that he's untrustable. They then form a group with 10 other players and re-enters the pirate base. They win the first 4 matches, leaving one more victory until they win overall. This is when Razor steps up and says, "Hey yo, we're playing dodgeball now." With Razor the last man standing on his team, Killua holds the ball while Gon uses his John Kengu to launch the ball at Razor. Razor manages to deflect it, but Hisoka comes in clutch with his bungee gum, launching the ball back at Razor, forcing him out of bounds, and earning the W for his team. With Razor knowing Jing, Gon asks if he knows anything about his father's whereabouts. Razor then tells Gon he knows nothing about Jing's location, but explains how Jing changed him for the better. After that, Gon is rewarded with the Patch of Shore card, and shortly after, Hisoka departs. Moving forward, as Gon and his group are walking, Genthru uses a contact card to communicate with them, and threatens their lives for the Patch of Shore card, adding that he has killed Gon's former teammates from the squad before this. Angered by this, Gon challenges Genthru on the spot, but is quickly stopped, ending the conversation with him there. They then come to the conclusion, if they want to beat the game, they have no other choice but to fight Genthru and the 2 other people in the squad. With Genthru, assuming Suzugeta has the Patch of Shore card, Suzugeta and his group agree to hold off Genthru for 3 weeks, to allow Gon and Killua to recover from their injuries from the dodgeball match, and to create a plan to defeat Genthru. In return, Suzugeta will be given the card Lucky Alexandrite. Shortly after negotiating, Suzugeta and his squad head out to distract Genthru, while Gon undergoes training with Bisky, and Killua waits for his hands to heal. Moving forward roughly 3 weeks, Genthru and his scrubby teammates arrive at Gon, Killua, and Bisky's location. As a part of their plan, they split up, baiting Genthru, Sub, and Bara to split up too. Killua takes on Sub, Bisky takes on Bara, and Gon takes on the almighty Genthru. Starting with Bisky, she transforms into her Hulk form and pounds Bara to the ground. Next, we got Killua trying out his new yo-yo technique against Sub, and it looks like Killua outplays him, bashing that 50-kilogram yo-yo into his head. And so, this now leaves Gon to settle his fight with Genthru. They then tie up Genthru, Sub, and Bara, and brings them all to one location. They then demand that they give up their cards that they stole from other Greed Island players. After collecting those stolen cards, Gon now has possession of 99 out of the 100 restricted cards. With that being said, card number 0 is the last card that Gon needs. Shortly after, an announcement notifies all Greed Island players that there will be an event that will take place in honor of a player collecting 99 restricted cards, also telling them the winner will be rewarded with the number 0 card. It's a quiz contest, and with that being said, Gon scores the highest, acquiring the final card he needed. As a reward for beating the game, Gon is able to take 3 restricted cards from Greed Island for use in the real world, so Gon gathers up with Killua and Bisky, deciding that each of them chooses 1 card. Bisky chooses the blue planet, Gon chooses the Paladin's necklace, and Killua chooses an accompany card disguised as a Patch of Shore restricted card, using a transform card. Gon uses his Paladin's necklace to revert Killua's card back to the accompany. This is when Gon recalls being the first one in Greed Island and seeing the name Nig in his recently encountered players. Putting this as an anagram, it spells out Jing. Gon then suspects that his father brought him to Greed Island when he was just a baby. So with that being said, Gon and Killua say their farewells to Bisky and uses the accompany card to transport themselves to the individual under the name Nig. You can try! On their arrival, they find out it's not Jing, but Jing's former student, Kite. They then experience and learn about a dangerous species known as chimera ants, which brings up the question on what type of hunter Kite is. Kite replies to Gon's question, telling him that he's a biological surveyor, and that he's currently investigating the chimera ants. Shortly after, Kite's co-workers arrive, and they examine a queen ant's claw that they recently discovered. Kite notices that it's unusually large, which worries him. Moving forward, they head out to do more research, and after a while they get a lead, and so Kite, Gon, and Killua head to NGL, in hopes of finding the chimera ant's nest. Meanwhile, the queen chimera ant has consumed her first human, and now craves them. Through the process of phagogenesis, pause the video for information on that, she produces a chimera ant naming him Colt. He's the first ant able to communicate with speech, and have a human-like personality. Through the consumption of more humans, she creates more chimera ants like Colt, with various personalities. After producing enough soldiers, the queen now aims to give birth to her royal guard and the king. Run, bitch, her! Well, that's what happens when you skip leg day. Moving forward, as they are navigating through NGL, they encounter a chimera ant named Ramit. As a way to see if Gon and Killua are qualified for the mission, Kite tells them to take him on. So Gon and Killua hits Ramit up with an extra juicy combo, launching Ramit into the air. And that's when Colt swoops in out of nowhere and takes Ramit back to their nest. After being exposed to Gon and Killua's Hatsu, Ramit awakens his Nen. From observing Ramit's fight with Gon and Killua, Colt concludes that Ramit got his power from getting hit by a Nen enhanced hit. So that's when Colt tells Ramit to hit him, while his Nen is rapidly flowing. Moving forward, one out of the 3 royal guard Pito is born, and Colt has awakened his Nen. As Pito is walking, it senses Poco hiding underneath bones, and so they kill him, taking his body for information on Nen. After reading a book on the human brain, Pito then takes 2 antennae and injects them into a certain region of Poco's brain, making him tell Pito everything he knows about Nen. Pito then confirms that the impact from a Nen attack can awaken an individual's Nen, and so the chimera ant gather up to go through the awakening process. After fighting through waves of chimera ants, Kite remembers that he had Jing's hunter license and gives it to Gon to return it back to him when he finds him. As they are heading towards the nest, Pito senses their presence nearby, simultaneously as Kite senses Pito's immense aura. Kite then tells Gon and Killua to run, but before they knew it, Pito then gives off an evil aura directed at Gon and Killua. This is when Gon tries going to Super Saiyan 3, but is quickly stopped. Killua then takes Gon and dips, leaving NGL. Killua then calls Kite's co-workers for pickup, and that's when they pull up with reinforcements: Netero, Nove, and Morel. Before entering NGL, Netero tells Killua he sent 2 assassins to the nearest village, adding that they must defeat those assassins in order to continue fighting in NGL, giving them 2 tokens. The goal is to take possession of the assassins' tokens to confirm the victory, but if they lose theirs, they won't be allowed to enter NGL. Moving forward, Killua arrives in the village and checks into a hotel. Shortly after, Gon awakes and thanks Killua for stopping him, but Killua says not to thank him because he let Kite die. Gon then tells Killua that Kite is alive, giving him hope, but little did they know. Cue the music! And we're done. As Gon and Killua are walking around the village, they meet Palm, who invites them to have some tea. While they're having tea, she says that she's a student of Nove. Killua then asks her for the condition that Netero told her, and she responds with, they have to defeat both the Morel students, Knuckle and Shoot, adding that only one pair will be able to enter NGL, and there's a 1-month deadline. Moving forward, Gon and Killua heads to Palm's place, and there stood Bisky, who Palm invited to train them. Gon and Killua then undergo training to maintain their Ren. They must hold their Ren for 3 consecutive hours in order to move on to the next step. After failing and exhausting themselves, Bisky instructs them to fight Knuckle, telling them that if it seems like they're gonna lose, retreat and try again the next day. They then repeat the cycle with Ren training and sparring with Knuckle for a series of weeks. Throughout this time, Knuckle becomes friends with them, and Gon comes up with a name for his Nen ability, which is Jajunkin. Since Killua didn't fight much throughout the last couple of weeks, Bisky challenges him to a fight, going into her Hulk form, and as a result, throughout this fight, she points out Killua's weaknesses, the first one being that he gives up too easily, and the second being he underestimates himself. Moving forward, Bisky heads out, and Gon and Killua are settling their fights with Knuckle and Shoot for the tokens. Gon goes up against Knuckle, and Killua goes up against Shoot. In Gon's fight, Knuckle doesn't hold back and uses his Nen ability Bankruptcy Chapter 7 on Gon. Pause the video for the explanation because you got me fucked up if you think I'm explaining all this. And in Killua's fight, Killua is running away from battle because of Illumi's mind control. As a result, both Gon and Killua take L's, losing their tokens. On top of that, Gon loses the ability to use his Nen for 30 days because of the effect of Knuckle's ability. They then arrive at NGL's entrance with Knuckle and Shoot to say their goodbyes. But before they head inside, Gon makes Knuckle promise to save Kite, and so Knuckle is like, I got you! Moving forward, the 2 other royal guard, Poof and Yuppie, are born, and upon consuming hundreds of humans, the king is born, putting the queen in critical condition. Since the queen is dying, Colt flies over to Morel and Nove, surrendering, asking them to help the queen, also telling them the king has been born. They believe Colt and brings them to their boss, Netero. Netero then orders them to group up with Shoot and Knuckle and to head to the nest with Colt leading the way. When they arrive at the nest, they attempt to save the queen, but cue the music. Cue the music. Cue the music. Oh wait a minute, this bitch doesn't deserve it. Before she died, she made her last request being for someone to tell the king his name, marry him. Colt then finds something moving in the queen's stomach, and it turns out to be a baby chimera ant, on which he promises to protect. Moving forward, the king is in search of that delicacy he had while he was in the queen's stomach, known as Nen users. The king as well as his royal guard then arrive in the Republic of East Gartau. There they head inside of a palace, killing and devouring every guard that crossed their path, making the king hit a nut because of all them Nen users. They then meet up with the supreme leader of this land, Kim Jong-un, and takes him out. Moving forward, Gon and Killua return to Palm and finds her furious because she couldn't go to NGL. Gon then asks her how he can make it up to her, and she says to go on a date with her. Man, what the fuck? Gon then agrees, calming Palm down. Moving forward a bit, Gon gets a call from Knuckle, telling him that he has found Kite, but it looks like he's being controlled by the enemy. Gon is then like, all we need to do is find a way to get him back to normal, and we all good. Moving forward once again, Gon goes on his date with Palm, and so Killua decides to follow and watch over him. While Killua is monitoring Gon, he senses an aura nearby and investigates. Soon after, he finds Ramit, and that's when Illumi's mind control starts telling him to run. Killua then jabs his hand into his head, removing the needle that Illumi placed to control Killua. After that, the fight was just child's play for Killua. Killua then returns back to Gon and finds Palm on her crazy shit again, so Killua grabs Gon and dips. Moving forward, Nove, Shoot, Morel, and Knuckle brings Gon to the location where Kite is being kept. There Gon sees Kite looking all fucked up, but after seeing Kite like this, Gon makes a vow to bring him back to normal. With one more day left until Gon is able to use Nen again, Morel and the others agree to bring Gon and Killua to the Republic of East Gartau. Shortly after their arrival, Pito uses its Nen ability to control the leader of East Gartau, inviting the civilians of this area to the palace, where a quote-unquote screening will take place in 10 days. They are aware of the king's intentions, and shortly after, they get a text from Netero with the plan. They will have to divide into 3 pairs to bait the 3 royal guard away from the king. With everything decided, Gon and Killua are assigned Pito, Knuckle and Shoot are assigned Yuppie, Nova and Morel are assigned Poof, and Netero is assigned the king. Shortly after getting everything straight, Knuckles' Nen ability wears off, and so Gon is now able to use Nen again. Moving forward, 6 Phantom Troop members head over to Meteor City, the homeland of most of the troop. There they find out Chimera ants have invaded it, and so as a result, POW! 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 And it looks like they cleared out the Chimera ants. After doing some planning to stop the selection, Gon and Killua separate, and apparently a Chimera ant follows Gon. After a while, Gon notices the Chimera ant following him and questions him. He then reveals his name is Melorion and that he's looking to partner up with Gon. Without hesitation, Gon believes him and accepts his partnership. Melorion then shows Gon his Nen abilities, Perfect Plan and God's Accomplice. Perfect Plan allows him to go invisible by holding his breath, and God's Accomplice is pretty much the same thing but can also turn someone else invisible through contact. Shortly after displaying his abilities, he then explains to Gon the reason he partnered up with him, with his objective being to get revenge on the king. Meanwhile, Killua is being followed and tracked by a Chimera ant named Flutter. While Flutter is following him, he gives coordinates to another Chimera ant with telepathy. Using these coordinates, he snipes Killua with flawless accuracy. After getting smacked by flea bullets a good couple of times, Killua tracks the sniper and confronts him. The sniper then leads Killua into a trap, but Killua manages to save himself from the fall. And there it's revealed that the Chimera ant is an octopus looking thing named Ikugo, who uses dead bodies as hosts. After meeting Ikugo, Killua thinks he's a pretty cool guy, and in different circumstances he would have befriended him. This is when a Chimera ant sneaks up behind Killua and attaches a pin to him. Shortly after, Nen darts start to hit him. After enduring multiple darts, Killua sees through the Nen ability and fakes his death. That's when the Orthro siblings come up from the water and is like, "Hey, we got him!" Shortly after taking them out, Killua collapses from blood loss. Ikugo then picks him up and heads to the nearest clinic to get him patched up. Moving forward, the king is now playing board games against champions to pass time until the selection. He manages to beat the champions at Shogi and Go, and gets bored of those games quite quickly. So I guess you can say the king got bored games. I really need to end myself after that. So the next game the king plays is Gungi, going up against the champion Komugi. After taking a series of L's, the king gets upset, but at the same time he's enjoying himself. Moving forward, Nove takes out Flutter and brings him back to his Nen dimension. After that, Nove heads over to the palace and creates portals in various locations to serve as entrances when they start their operation. As he makes his way to the central stairway, he retreats due to fear after encountering Pito's aura. Shortly after, Palm enters in her own way. As she's sneaking around the palace looking for the king to use her Nen ability, she gets discovered. Moving forward, the king is still taking massive L's against Komugi, causing him to obsess over his matches. With that being said, Poof begins holding a grudge against her. Moving forward a bit more, Komugi gets attacked by a hawk, and the king comes in and saves her, afterwards showing concern for her. Upon doing this, the king starts questioning his morals, because he just saved a human. Moving forward once again, Ikugo and Melorion join the Chimera Ant extermination team, and they all gather up in Nove's dimension minutes before the selection. On the start of the selection, all citizens in the area begin to move towards the palace. When they arrive at the palace, Poof uses his Nen ability to hypnotize them to follow his commands to stay put. And so the time has come! Palm to start their operation to stop the selection, using Node's portal to enter the palace. Just as they start their operation, Zeno and Netero drops by the palace, and Zeno uses his Dragon Dive technique, making it rain hella arrows. As the extermination team arrive at the central stairway, there stood Yuppie, who ends up destroying the stairway, dividing the team. With the Nen arrows devastating the palace, Komugi ends up getting hit, which brings the king to feel that feeling when you lose all your money gambling. Shortly after, Zeno and Netero arrive, and both stood there out of respect. The king then orders Pito to heal Komugi, and shortly after that, he tells Netero they can fight somewhere else. On Netero's way out, he sees Gon, and points to the direction where Pito is. After that, Zeno creates an Nen Dragon for Netero and the king, to transport them to a wasteland where they can fight. Meanwhile, Knuckles, Shu, and Milorion are all going up against Yuppie. With Knuckle invisible because of Milorion's ability, he manages to land a hit on Yuppie, activating his Nen ability. After fighting for a bit, Shu reaches his limit, and so Knuckle decides to take on Yuppie, baiting him away from Shu. Moving forward, Ikugo makes his way to the underground using an elevator, in search of Palm, giving general information on where she should be. After searching for a good while, he finds out that she's dead through a message she wrote with Nen. As Ikugo makes his way back to the elevator, he encounters a Chimera ant named Bloaster, who quickly discovers that he's not Flutter. After blasting Flutter's body, Bloaster believes that Ikugo is dead and heads to the elevator. With Bloaster unable to use the elevator because he needs a passcode, Ikugo moves to the control room and activates shutters, trapping Bloaster, following up with activating the sleeping gas in the elevator. Ikugo then comes in with an armored truck and crashes near the elevator. Shortly after, the sleeping gas hits Bloaster, and so Ikugo goes in for the finishing blow, but can't bring himself to pull the trigger, and so he runs back to the control room, ashamed of himself. Moving forward, Gon and Killua arrive in the room where Pito is healing Komugi. Gon's blood boils the split second their eyes meet, and demands to fight now. Killua wonder why Pito isn't preparing for battle, but after putting pieces together, he figures out the girl laying on the ground is someone precious to the king, and that she's getting healed. Pito then pleads Gon to wait for it to heal Komugi, breaking its arm to show it's serious. After hearing this, Gon gets enraged and starts charging his Jajunkin. Killua stops Gon by explaining to him that if he kills Pito, they'll never get Kite back. Gon then gives Pito 1 hour to heal Komugi, and makes Pito promise to come with him to heal Kite afterwards. And so Gon sits and waits. Meanwhile,
Beep boom, beep boom.
Geronimo! Moving forward, Killua sneaks out of the room using Milorion's invisibility. Right before Knuckle is about to get finished off, Killua comes in clutch with his Thunderbolt, allowing Knuckle to flee. Killua then activates his Godspeed and goes pop 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 pop. After running out of his Godspeed, Killua then retreats with Milorion's assistance. Moving forward, Morel meets up with Poof and intends to fight him, trapping him in his smoky jail. Since he couldn't escape, Poof wraps himself in a cocoon for a long ass time. After losing his patience, Morel strikes at the cocoon and undoes his smoky jail. That's when Poof disperses into many clones, and as an attempt to take them out, Morel creates smoke troopers, but ends up failing. And so Poof takes Morel's pipe, dropping the pipe into a body of water a good distance away from him. Yuppie then appears at Morel's location, and shortly after, Knuckle arrives. Using the troopers Morel created before getting his weapon confiscated, he transforms them into Knuckle clones and assists Knuckle in his fight. During the fight, Knuckle goes and hides, and Morel's troopers get slaughtered. With that being said, Yuppie goes in to kill Morel, but fails because Milorion comes in clutch with his ability. Yuppie managed to cut Morel before he went invisible, and so he follows the blood trail. This is when Knuckle returns and tells Yuppie to fight him and to let them escape. Yuppie says no to that, but proposes if Knuckle takes off his Nen ability, they'll have a deal. With Knuckle's Nen ability nearly completed, he undoes it due to tension, and so Yuppie leaves them alone. Shortly after, Nova appears and takes Morel to his dimension for healing. Moving forward, Yuppie and Poof are heading towards the king. Meanwhile, Netero and the king have arrived at their destination. Netero tells the king that they can fight here without any restraints, but the king then says, nah bruh, let's just talk things over. So Netero throws the first attack, which doesn't even leave a scratch on the king. After that, the king then sits back down, still looking to talk. Opposed to that, Netero claps them cheeks, which really didn't affect the king. The king then sits back down and says the only way he's gonna deal with him is to talk things through. That's when Netero says he'll tell the king his given name if he forces him to admit defeat. Eager to know his name, the king gets up and prepares for battle. Bah! 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 Slightly damaged by Netero's attacks, the king managed to detach 2 of Netero's limbs. Seeing Netero sitting defenselessly on the ground, the king then asks for his name. Netero then tells the king his name and detonates the bomb implanted within his heart, catching the king in its radius. Kaboom! Moving forward, Palm is reborn as a Chimera ant. Killua encounters Palm, and there she asks Killua where Gon is. Suspecting that she's an enemy now, he doesn't give her an answer, and so she goes berserk. After a bit, Killua apologizes for assuming that she was an enemy, and explains Gon's situation, eventually breaking down. After witnessing Killua's distress, Palm reverts back to her normal state, thanking Killua for saving her from the Chimera ant's control. Moving forward, a Chimera ant named Welfin enters the control room where Ikugo is. Viewed as a threat, Ikugo shoots him. After some conflict, they end up talking things out, and as an outcome, Ikugo was told by Welfin that Palm has been captured and placed in a cocoon, also giving him the details on the room she was placed in. And so Ikugo leaves the underground, and by chance, he meets up with Killua and Palm. Shortly after, they group up with Knuckle and Milorion, and prepares themselves for the next battle. Moving forward, Gon says, "Time's up, bitch!" bitch! And so they head out, leaving Komugi with Killua and Knuckle as a hostage. Meanwhile, Yuppie and Poof arrive at the bomb site, and there they find the king looking like a burnt gingerbread cookie. They both then give their energy to the king, which revives him. After being revived, the king ended up losing his memory, but soon after he recalls the palace, believing that it has the answers he's seeking. With the king having lost his memories, Poof sends clones over to the palace to erase any trace of Komugi. As the king is heading towards the palace, he starts getting suspicious with Poof's behavior, and believes he's hiding something. Moving forward, Poof's clone finds Komugi, but she's being defended by Killua. Poof then attempts to kill her, but can't due to Killua's powerful defense. Soon after, the king arrives at the palace, and so Poof's clone retreats to hide the Gungi game board and pieces laying around the floor, to prevent any chance of the king being reminded of Komugi. Meanwhile, Gon and Pito arrive at the location where Kite is being kept, and this is where Pito reveals the truth to Gon.
彼はもう死んでいる。
With Gon internally destroyed, Pito heals its broken arm, preparing to fight. That's when Gon's despair reaches its peak and transforms into Big Daddy Gon. Gon then takes Pito outside to settle their fight, and that's when Pito tries to get a cheap shot in, but Gon evades the attack and kicks that bitch up to heaven. But that bitch gets rejected, and so Pito falls back down. As Pito is falling, Gon uses his one-for-all quirk, charging that extra juicy John Ken Go! Launching Pito to China. Shortly after, Killua arrives and sees Gon making some mashed potatoes. Even though Pito is already dead, Pito's will possesses its body and attacks Gon, severing his arm. Grabbing his dismantled arm, he uses that shit like a goddamn spear, smashing Pito into the ground. After that, Gon uses one last Jajunkin. Kaboom! Moving forward, the king enters the palace and believes he's forgetting something important. So the king then releases his N on the whole area and finds Knuckle and Malorion, briskly knocking them out and capturing them for interrogation. Meanwhile, Palm and Ikugo rush to the underground to hide Komugi. They place Komugi in a box and place her in a storage room. Shortly after, they meet up with Welfin and sends him as a messenger to the king to tell him that they'll trade Komugi for Knuckle and Malorion. As Welfin is driving out, he is stopped by Yuppie, who soon after coughs up blood and dies. The king then releases his N once again and finds Welfin. Shortly after, Poof appears telling the king that Welfin has deep ties with his secret. The king then grows impatient, and so he says he's hungry, giving Welfin the death stare. With Welfin going through a panic, he then says, After hearing this, the king starts remembering everything. Moving forward, Poof dies, and the king heads to the underground in search of Komugi. There he finds Palm, and after a compromise, the king reunites with Komugi. The king and Komugi then have their final match before they pass away, after being exposed to the poisonous gas of the poor man's rose bomb that Netero set off. Although Komugi wasn't directly there, it's contagious through respiration. So yeah, that's how Yuppie and Poof died also. Cue the music! And we're done here. Moving forward, the war with the Chimera Ants is over. Gon is on life support after going to his Big Daddy transformation. And an election for a new chairman for the Hunter Association is taking place due to Netero's death. While in the hospital, Morel calls Colt to check up on the Chimera Ant child. The Chimera Ant is revealed to be the reincarnation of Kite. Meanwhile, with Gon in the condition he is in right now, Killua vows to save Gon and heads back home to the Zodiac family. There he seeks his sibling Alika. And for the sake of this video and for the sake of my well-being, I'm gonna refer to Alika as a female. If you say otherwise, then get the fuck out! Alika has the power to grant any wish if a person complies with a series of requests. Depending on the scale of the wish, the intensity of the request will correlate with it. If someone fails to complete 4 of Alika's requests in a row, it will result in death. With that being said, Alika has been locked behind heavy security due to the dangers of her power. Killua goes to his father Silva asking to see Alika. After some convincing, Killua is allowed to see her. Killua then tries to leave her, asking his father to open the door. He refuses to do so, and so Killua wishes to kill his mother if he doesn't leave the mountain within 30 minutes. With that being said, this forced his father to submit and allows Killua to leave with Alika. Through his actions, Killua is now placed on alert level 4, meaning that he'll be escorted by butlers, and if he violates any of the rules set, he'll be forced back home. The rules being he can't tell anyone about Alika's power, and he has to stay 1 meter close to her at all times. Meanwhile, Illumi tells Hisoka about the dangers of Alika's power, telling him that if Killua makes this wish to heal Gon, they both can potentially die. Illumi then instructs that they must kill Alika. With that being said, as Killua, Alika, and the butlers are heading to the city Gon is in, they are attacked by Illumi. The butler then says that they need to return back to the house, but Killua was opposed to that and dips. Shortly after, Hisoka arrives, and so Goto takes on Hisoka, allowing the other butlers to go after Killua. Eat my Chuck E. Cheese tokens, bitch! As Killua is hustling, he encounters Needleman, aka people controlled by Illumi, shortly after Illumi arrives following the butlers. After explaining Alika's power, that there isn't a risk of someone dying if you wish to heal someone, Illumi has no reason to kill her and leaves, stating that Killua is still hiding something from him, and he won't let Alika go until he tells him how he's able to wish 2 times in a row. Moving forward, they arrive at Gon's hospital bed and uses Alika's power to heal him back to health. Gon then heads over to the Hunter Association headquarters, where the election for chairman is being held, and there he meets his father Jing. Gon then apologizes to Jing for what happened to Kite, and as a response, Jing says he shouldn't be the one he should be apologizing to, and that he should be apologizing to Kite. He then follows up with telling Gon the rule to apologizing, which is to promise to do things differently next time. After that, Gon heads out, but before leaving, he asks if they can talk later. That's when Jing says,
俺忙しいし
Shortly after, Jing tells Gon he'll see him later. And as a result for the election, Cheadle is elected as the new chairman. Who the fuck cares? Moving forward, Gon meets up with Kite and apologizes. Kite then says she had the right judgment allowing Gon and Killua to escape when they were attacked by Pito. After talking for a bit, Kite then tells Gon to see Jing again. So Gon heads back to the Hunter Association headquarters to meet up with Jing. When he arrives, Jing isn't here, but he sees a note from him to meet up at the top of the world tree. And so Gon heads there with Killua and Alika. At the gate, they part ways, with Gon heading to see Jing and both Killua and Alika heading out to adventure. But before disbanding, Gon says,
カイトも言ってたよ。俺たちどこにいても仲間だから。お。
And so Gon meets up with Jing at the top of the world tree, and there Jing explains his adventures as a hunter and also explains the outside world, where the Chimera ants came from. After that, Gon returns Jing's hunter license, and afterwards, they continue talking about their adventures. We have reached the conclusion of Hunter x Hunter. What lies ahead of Gon's adventure? Find out after this hiatus.